Anyway, this is Do You Know Jack Radio, talking, just wrapping on the line here with Arrival of Autumn's Jamison Friesen. Speaking of being Friesen, this guy hails from the one and only Grande Prairie, Alberta. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Not bad. I suppose I'm probably not the first one to, make that pun on your name. I just thought of that on the spot, though. I swear I'm not plagiarizing anyone.
It's clever enough. It's good for a laugh.
Yeah. Oh, so Grande Prairie, Alberta. Now, you guys claim to be a band from northern Canada, but having been based in Yellowknife myself for many years, I kind of call bullshit on that a little bit, just a tiny bit.
I've got to say it. You've got a one up on us, man. That is far north.
Yeah, but I will say this: I am familiar with Grande Prairie, and I will say that everything you guys have said on the trailers so far, basically about Grande Prairie sort of just being plopped in the middle of nowhere, are 100% true. I mean, I guess my first operative question going into this interview is metal in Grande Prairie, Alberta. How the hell did that happen?
Well, it started before I was involved in the scene. I attended my first local metal show when I was 12.
Uh-huh.
And there's been guys who have been in bands here. I mean, as far back as I think I've met a guy who was in a metal band here in the 90s. So it's
Wow.
been a thing. And we definitely, as soon as we realized that there was a spark of metal in our hometown, we were like, okay,
Yeah.
let's make a band. Let's play some shows. Let's do it.
See, when I think of Grande Prairie now, I'm thinking like country music and, the vast
Big
wide
country
open
music.
prairie. I mean, it's not called Grande Prairie for nothing. You come up over that hill and into the valley there, and you pretty much see exactly that. It's a very, very grand prairie landscape.
That is correct. Yeah.
I actually I have a confession to make. For a couple years, I lived in Valley View, and I was teaching on the Sturgeon Lake Reservation, so I'm totally familiar
Oh,
with
for sure.
the area. Yeah, but I mean, the themes that you guys have mentioned just throughout your interview junket are entirely true, right? I mean, it's a pretty desolate place. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. It's a long way from anywhere that's worth mentioning, and it's definitely a beautiful place. We can see the Rocky Mountains on a nice day, and we're a few hours drive from Jasper, which is a place that people travel across the world to visit. So we're
Yeah.
fortunate, and at the same time, you've just got to make the best out of the situation of being kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Now, I think one of the things you mentioned is that, metal for you guys, in particular, you and Brendan, who were sort of the genesis of Arrival of Autumn, was a bit of escape, right? Because, I mean, some of these northern communities can be a little rough.
Yeah, I mean, we started playing music together when we were really young, and it became our favorite thing to do, and it's all we ever did besides, we would play Guitar Hero, and then we would go play guitar. So, yeah, it became our escape a long time ago, and has continued to be.
That's interesting. You guys come from that generation where I guess shredding guitar was, cool for a very short period of time because of the release of, the movie School of Rock, right? I mean, I'm sure that
Oh,
was
yeah.
a bit of an inspiration for you guys as well. Am I right in that assumption?
Yeah, definitely. Brendan actually showed me that movie for the first time, way, way back, and it was, phenomenal. Jack Black is a true hero.
There was that short period of time too where like every kid in every closet and basement and attic corner of Canada were forming sort of like pseudo metalcore hardcore bands. I mean, is that the generation that you and Brendan come from as well?
Yeah, I would say so. We've made friends with bands from Fort St. John, Fort Nelson, Fort McMurray, and smaller and smaller towns, in between. So yeah, there was a ton of dudes picking up instruments around that time and just, covering Attack Attack and getting it done.
Probably from about 2005 to 2008. I'm thinking about my time in Yellowknife now. There was like 5 or 6 metalcore, screamo, hardcore, whatever you want to call it, bands that were operating at that time, and they were putting out their own flyers and basically planning their own shows, seeking out venues, and so on and so forth. I mean, is that kind of I suppose that's maybe the genesis of just about every small town metal band there is, but it seemed like there was a peak period of 3 or 4 years there where like everybody was doing it, and it was a kind of the thing. I mean, is that similar to the Arrival of Autumn and how you guys came up?
Yeah, definitely. We were very much a do-it-yourself band in our city. We were hooked up with another band that was doing really well at the time, and they got us our first show in town. Right. And we were kind of like, okay, these guys promote the hell out of their shows, and they self-book, and it works. Let's just do that. And yeah, we booked our venues. We realized how many tickets we would need to sell to break even, so we realized we needed to actually promote, and we would print and hang flyers, and Facebook was really handy for that as well. We were high school kids, so we could reach that demographic as well. We could go hang posters in a school and not be chased out by the principal. And that was a great way to learn how to pull off a gig. It wasn't quite the School of Rock, 1,000 people at a Sunday afternoon battle of the bands.
Yeah.
We pulled off some pretty crazy shows. It was a lot of fun back then.
So I mean, I know in Yellowknife it came in, it came as quickly, it went as quickly as it came in. I mean, what's the story with the little Grande Prairie scene? Did it only last a few years as well? Is it still going? Is it still healthy?
It's definitely not as healthy as it was back when we started. We started playing shows here in 2010 with, I guess not as Arrival of Autumn. Me and the drummer Ty were in a thrash hair kind of metal band in 2010.
Yeah.
And so that was our stepping stone into the scene. And then Arrival of Autumn in 2011. There was a couple other promoters, a lot of kids and bands, really exciting times, like too many bands almost.
Yeah.
And then like in an instant, when we were focusing on booking elsewhere and limiting our hometown shows to, keep the hype, substantial drop off in the local scene. A couple guys, really tried to keep it alive, but the venues were harder and harder to come by to pull off an all ages show. And then, you can only do so many 18 plus shows. So really our scene here revolves mostly around accommodating touring bands.
Yeah.
And then the odd show that some local guys will put together.
Yeah, I remember way back in I think it was, when did I work there? In 2001, I remember Nickelback coming through Grande Prairie and people talking about that.
Is that the infamous shoe?
I think it might have been the infamous shoe gig in 2001. Oh my God, I've forgotten about Shoegate.
I don't think they've come back since then.
Well, can you blame them?
Man, they could kill it here if they came back. It would be the biggest show here ever.
Yeah. Well, now probably the rink's probably not a big enough venue to support a massive international band like Nickelback now. I mean, it's like you guys had your chance and you fucked it up.
Yeah, really.
Oh, yeah. Well, now just I feel so like all over the place. I think I'm like over caffeined here. But what I was going to say was now you mentioned how this little scene in Grande Prairie was operating. It was healthy. I mean, what in your estimation just sort of killed that whole vibe? I tend to think of a few different things. Like you mentioned how you guys, would use Facebook to promote, and of course there was no extra charge for Facebook to promote back in those days, so you could reach a lot more people on social media, and you could use Twitter as a viable source. But I also, maybe this is old school of me to say, but I also almost blame an over almost like a cell phone addiction type thing, like kids turn to their cell phones and stop picking up guitars. But maybe I just sound like an old man shaking his fist by saying
that. You're not entirely wrong. You can make a sick beat and rap over it on your phone with GarageBand,
Yeah.
But we would, there was a lot of the kids who they were, into the emo core. I hate that word, but that's kind of how you could describe the scene that they were involved with.
Yeah.
And then they turned to the EDM and the rave scene, right?
Yeah.
And then the rest of the guys were like, okay, I'm going to focus on my career, which is definitely a smart decision. But then, their bands just eventually go to the wayside. It's like, oh, we'll keep playing. And then they don't,
Yeah.
But something has stopped young kids from picking up instruments and forming bands, definitely.
I know in Yellowknife too, like venues started to blacklist this little scene based on maybe a couple of things that might have happened at the shows, and the hardcore moshing with the spin kicks and the fists and stuff. I think initially those venues weren't aware of those types of behaviors going on, and then when they found out, they were a little hesitant because of different insurance concerns and so on and so forth. What was that a similar issue with some of those Grande Prairie venues as well?
Yeah, definitely. I can think of one venue. It was like the nicest place to play. And yeah, they had one bad experience with a metal show, and then they needed such a massive damage deposit that it was just ludicrous. They did it on purpose, so that no one could afford to play metal shows there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing. I mean, but on the flip side, we threw a CD release show for our last record in 2014, and the only venue we could book for an all ages had seats, and the first 2 rows got flattened to the ground. But the owner was stoked on us, on the show that we pulled off, and we were able to just, settle that privately, make it right with the owner of the venue, and all was good. And they've definitely expressed that they would have us back. So,
yeah.
Yeah, but I can see a lot of venue owners being, or have seen a lot of venue owners who were hesitant for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, is there just a culture of venue owners that really don't understand the heavy metal culture of moshing? Like, you get knocked down and people pick you up, and sometimes kids just want to get into a pit and kick the shit out of each other and not really care about anything.
That's for sure. The venue where we are going to play our CD release show for Harbinger in Grande Prairie, they have a no moshing policy.
Yeah.
So basically, they'll just boot you outside if you're trying to start something on the floor, which is unfortunate. But the venue is amazing. The owner's amazing. So it's going to be a fantastic show. But
yeah.
I think that's the most sensible solution to the crowd killer problem, is just the no moshing policy with a big guy standing next to the stage who's going to kick you out if you try and start something. So
that's fair. Well, I mean, you've mentioned Harbinger a few times now. Big record coming out for the band, March 29th on Nuclear Blast Records. So, I mean, you guys are sort of the physical embodiment of, small town band finally gets their, due just reward. I mean, first of all, congratulations on the Nuclear Blast signing. I mean, it still must be pretty surreal for you.
Thanks, man. It is. It's crazy. Yeah. We are going to do our damnedest not to blow it, because this is what we wanted our entire lives. So we have an opportunity to really take our band to the next level now, and it's really exciting.
Now, I think, just backing this up a little bit, I think part of what ended up getting you to that point in, your record on into the hands of, Monty Connor was that you worked with Jason Sukoff on your on Harbinger. I mean, I guess, before we talk more about the Nuclear Blast signing, I mean, how did you guys end up dropping on the radar of Jason to begin with?
It was our drummer's idea to get in touch with him.
Uh-huh.
And we basically were like, we got nothing to lose by sending an email and, a link to our previous work. And he got back and ended up booking us for some studio time.
That's nice. I would imagine, though, he comes at a pretty high price. Am I right?
I mean, he's worth it. He's worth every penny. Our first session with him was for 3 songs.
Yeah.
And then he, just because he is the dude, he's such a oh, he's got the biggest heart. He farmed it out, and then that's how Nuclear Blast got a hold of it.
I see. So then, like, are did you work off in advance from Nuclear Blast for the other 7 songs?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess like so many people want to step forward and kind of poo-poo the idea of record labels nowadays, but I mean, if you're signed on to a record label that provides adequate support, then I mean, I guess that's what they're there for in this day and age.
Yeah, and I mean, not to shit talk my own generation, but there's an entitlement issue. So Nuclear Blast, any label really, they don't want to just hand an opportunity to a band who's going to expect everything to just happen for them.
Yeah.
They saw that we were already putting ourselves out there, putting in the work, getting down to Florida to make a good demo with Jason. They saw that we had what it takes to, the work ethic to go all the way with it. So we have a mutual interest, and
Sure.
and so we're I think we're on the same page with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned now that Jason has a big heart. I mean, apart from having a big heart, what are some of the more obvious things that he might bring to the table as a producer? I know there's one quote in the press release talking about how, there's a deep analysis, part of how he works with bands. I mean, can you just, expound on how that deep analysis works a little bit more, Jamison?
Yeah, I mean, it's like watching a computer process an equation when he's listening to a song and trying to think about how to take it to the next level. He's on a whole nother level, a genius level when it comes to making music. So I mean, he basically checked us on every song, and if a part was blatantly bad, he would say, that sucks, we're not going to do that, go write a better part. And then, a lot of on the fly stuff too. Like, he would just be in the moment, like, light bulb, try this, boom, it works, awesome, let's do that.
Yeah. I've often thought now that a producer's job too is to kind of cut the fat off songs and really get them down to their basic roots and their foundation and their core, and then maybe even to a certain extent build them back up again. I mean, is that sort of Jason to a T?
I suppose so. I mean, we ourselves don't really like to write songs that are over 4 minutes, I guess, for example.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be Between the Buried and Me, so there wasn't a lot of fat to cut.
Yeah.
I would say mostly he could take the parts that were shining and polish them further.
I saw now too, Ryan Sorensen. I mean, he's a pretty new addition to the band. I think I saw a post on your Facebook page from December talking about how he hasn't been with you guys all that long, and you also make a quip that you and Ryan had never met in one of the trailers. I'm really hoping that was sarcasm.
Yes, it was, for sure. Me and Ryan have been friends for years and years. Basically, him and Kevin, our bass player, who's been in the band for quite a long time, we met them when they were in their former project called Windy City Slaughter.
Uh-huh.
And then years back, Brendan and Ryan had an idea to do a double EP, basically, a crossover project between our bands.
Right.
And then when we were given the opportunity to make a full length with Jason, we were like, let's get Ryan on this project and become a 5-piece. I was playing guitar at the time. And so it was really an idea that spawned years and years ago. And then we were like, this is the moment. Let's act on it. Let's get it done.
Sure. Now, just thinking about the record as a whole, there's quite a significant amount of hooks. It almost gives the record a bit of the production gives the record a glossy shine, and your hooks on this record almost give it more of a mainstream appeal. I mean, is that something that sort of spawned out of working with a producer like Jason, who's been with bands like All That Remains, Motionless in White, and Whitechapel?
Yeah, I definitely think so. He knows how to polish a chorus. Definitely, that's his. I mean, as much of a wizard of a shredder and instrumentalist he is, his chorus work is set apart for sure.
Uh-huh. And with the
All day he's singing to himself and coming up with patterns and melodies. Just his brain never stops. It's quite something.
and now like that you're like kind of away from the guitar, or like where do you fit into the writing process, and how much does that free you up as a vocalist having somebody like Ryan around?
It's been fantastic. Being able to focus 100% on the vocals, I think, is what needed to happen to get where we wanted to be. And yeah, like the vocal parts on the record, I'm incredibly proud of how they came out. And it freed me up to get more technical and, kind of work against the metronome, so to speak. So I didn't have to be singing with my right hand, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you mentioned that Ryan has done some shows with you just this past summer, right?
Yeah, we played our first gig with him in August.
So then I guess my next question would be, now that the guitar is out of your hands and essentially into Ryan's, I mean, how does that affect your overall live performance? Because I know sometimes, being a bit of an instrumentalist myself, sometimes I tend to hide behind my instrument a little bit, and that's kind of my voice and my way of expressing myself. And I would imagine if you're a guitar player and you're singing and playing, that there's an element there too. So I mean, are you out of your comfort zone as a vocalist now that the guitar is out of your hands? I mean, how has your approach changed?
I definitely try and um, make sure I'm interacting with the audience in between vocal parts, or headbanging, jumping around, getting the crowd pumped up. It's freed me up to do a lot more physical stuff on stage, which I think everyone finds a little bit entertaining.
Yeah, yeah. No, I could see that. So then, this signing with Nuclear Blast, this is a fairly recent thing. I mean, did you get the opportunity to get a little bit of time to chat with the legendary Monty Connor? I mean, how did this whole aspect of you getting signed to Nuclear Blast come about, and so on and so forth?
Basically, when Monty basically first made contact, it was to Jason and his buddy Sean Glass, who is a manager, and then Sean got in touch with us, offering to manage us, and we knew that he was tight with Monty, so we hired Sean, and basically most of the correspondence was through Sean and Monty. So I'm pretty much looking forward to our New York City show, so we can just meet him in person and get to know him a bit.
Yeah, yeah. I can recall when he was with Roadrunner. I know a few. It's a long story, but I know a few of the people that worked with him in the office at the time. Before he, I suppose he was laid off. And people describe that there's almost like an aura around him, but maybe that aura is sort of contrived by the people that are around him, just because he's been a part of so many legendary acts. I mean, in your dealings with him, have you what type of a person is Monty? How has he been interacting with you guys so far?
Pretty much just when it's required, he's involved in the process, as far as getting us in the studio and starting our promo for the album. He seems like a really, really nice guy, but I haven't got much of an impression besides that.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I mean that makes sense, and I'm glad you're gonna get out to New York and have a chance to meet the man in person. That's just, it's so amazing to hear that you guys have gotten this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited.
Well, listen, man.
It's crazy. It's yeah.
Yeah. No, no. I was just gonna say, it's been great. Finally getting to chat with you here, and just your whole story is incredible, and I mean, I guess I'm hoping that it'll be an inspiration to other bands and other kids out there that have a guitar in hand and are just struggling and getting out there and creating their own flyers and getting out and doing their own social media and promo, that hopefully you guys will be able to inspire folks like that. I mean, it's they say with great power comes great responsibility, Jamison.
That's right. Yeah, my uncle's walking on eggshells.
Anyway, it's been awesome talking with you. I really appreciate your time today, sir.
I appreciate it as well, man. Great to chat.
Yeah, right on. And I'll definitely be following what you guys do over the next couple of months. This is definitely an exciting time for Arrival of Autumn and your fans, and hopefully your ever growing fan base.
Yeah, for sure, man. And hopefully we get to catch you on the road somewhere.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I live close to Saskatoon, so if you guys ever come sort of through that way, I'll have to make a point of getting out there. I live in Prince Albert, which is like an hour and change drive away, but comparatively,
for sure,
living in Yellowknife, where you have to hop a plane an hour and change drive away, doesn't seem like much.
That's right. Yeah, cool. Well, I'm sure we'll make our way to the Black Cat or something in Saskatoon sometime this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Black Cat's a sweet venue. I've seen a few shows there. So yeah, cool. It's cool that you name dropped a cool venue in Saskatoon. Anyway, man,
it's a good place. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I was just gonna say, like I said, it's been nice talking with you today, man. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Later.
Bye.